Welcome back to the uncertain future of Defiant Horizon. The future is not given, it is seized by those whom the present is found lacking. Accept not what is, claim that which should be. Number 3. Sleeping Tiger. Byakko Industries Headquarters. Core Island, Hashishima City, Hashishima. Thursday, August 9th, 2035. Marko Byakko stood in the ruined lobby of his company's headquarters. Broken glass, chips of ultracrete, wood, blood, plastic bullet casings, and other debris littered the stark white marble floors. Bullet holes riddled the fine marble and slate walls. 7 security guards and Gina, the night receptionist, had lost their lives in the attack, and 3 more guards were in the hospital. But why? Who would dare do something like this?
Any update from HPF on how the hell they didn't see this as it was happening?
Marko said to his assistant in New Russian. He knelt to pick up a plastic casing, reading Armamax X Factor Tac 7, painted in white on the dull gray surface. They're still investigating. Agent Greaves with their cybersec department is looking into the possibility of a cyber attack. Our techs have confirmed that the telecom line and wireless was unaffected, and the Razorback that was used was not equipped with signal jammers. Seeing as other data from the building was unaffected and no loss of signal alert was pinged in their system, a targeted cyber strike is most likely, Yura Sarkov, Marko's assistant, said. Marko frowned and kicked some debris on the floor. Glass skittered against the marble. He was furious, beyond furious. Anger burned in his chest, pushing him to act, to destroy, to make someone hurt. His accent grew thicker.
What about IDs on the mercs? Any orders found on them to indicate what they were after?
Nothing yet, sir. Even our own facial recognition AI couldn't identify them, Yura said, wincing at the sharp screech of glass. Nothing in their pockets except for weapons, mostly from defense tech and hand tools. He cursed, turned, and marched to the elevators. A final reminder of the attack, a bullet hole in the wall just around the corner from the elevators, sparked Marko's anger again.
I don't trust them to figure this out. I want our people on this. If this was a strike from one of our competitors, we will make them pay back 1,000-fold.
I've already got Romanov and Braun on it, Yura said as they stepped onto the waiting elevator. Marko nodded.
I want Cheng on it too.
Understood. Sending orders now, Yura said, typing away at her holo console. They stood in silence as they ascended. Marko cracked his gnarly knuckles, trying to cool his anger. He wanted to raise the city to find who had the audacity to attack his company. He would do it too, if he felt it would get him any closer to an answer. More likely he would burn anyone who knew anything in the process, and have even less to go on than he did before. As the door opened to his office, he said, I want patrol drones on constant surveillance around the perimeter. Set up our company of automatic infantry bots we've been working on for the Future Combat Initiative, ready to be deployable at a moment's notice on every entry point. Authorize armor-piercing ammo, shotguns, and KA-449s for the security team. This will not happen again. Sir, Yura started, sighing. I don't think the police will like us deploying military hardware like that.
They let us get attacked. An attack that cost 8 of my people their lives. They can deal with it. Or buy a Bastion's contract and do their job myself if they don't like it, Marko said,
He sat at his massive stainless steel desk and took out a cigar from his pinstripe suit jacket, a Rubio Especial.
They are lucky I'm not bringing tanks. And if they don't want to do their job, I'll call St. Petersburg and have the streets flooded with OSP agents.
Yura sat at the corner of his desk, which always made her look like a porcelain doll, with her petite proportions and pale white skin, in contrast to the size of the gargantuan desk. Most would have called his desk a conference table. To Marko's almost big enough to serve as his desk. When he really needed to think, he printed out all of the data he needed to consider and splayed them out across his desk. She put a hand on his shoulder.
Marko, we are going to figure out who did this, and we will deal with them.
He cut the cigar tip, lit it, sat back in his cool steel chair, and puffed on the cigar. The acrid smoke teased his throat, helping him feel more himself again.
We better. We need to send a message,
Marko said, smoke billowing out of his mouth as he spoke. Yura snatched his cigar and took a long drag for herself before handing it back. Marko sighed, meeting her icy blue eyes.
We don't have time for that right now.
Too bad,
Yura said with a smirk. Marko looked her over again, golden hair pulled into a tight bun, tight black pantsuit hugging her slight figure in all the right ways, thin lips and sharp nose, just like... He stood, scratched at his shaved head and puffed the cigar again.
Push back the meeting for transference. Push everything back. Call Victor in.
Then he turned away from her and walked to his old record player that sat on a metal bookshelf behind his chair. He set Anthems of Victory by Yeltsin on the player and turned up the volume. Then he started to pace as a brisk, inspiring march barked in his cavernous office. It was called Forward for the Motherland. After a while, his cigar nearly gone, he heard the familiar nasal voice of Victor speaking in New Russian.
You still listen to this shit?
Marko looked over to the mountain of a man, mounds of muscle barely contained in a red alligator leather jacket. He cursed.
You never have had any sense of taste.
You don't pay me to have taste for all this old shit,
Victor said, crossing his arms.
No, I pay you to keep the other organizations from moving against us, keeping shit like what happened last night from happening. This old shit is your cultural heritage. Have some respect,
Marko said. Victor laughed and shook his head.
I say let it all burn. We burned plenty in the Ascension.
Well, we should be so lucky you don't get to decide that,
Marko replied, then nodded to a seat at his desk. Victor sat as suggested, leaning back in the chair. Marko sat back down and offered a cigar, to which Victor waved a refusal before extracting a cigarette from his jacket and lighting it. Marko sighed.
And I expect you still drink that cheap gold-piece vodka you always do.
Victor laughed, took a long drag on his cigarette, and then said,
And why not? It's available, you can buy a lot, and if you drink enough, you forget about your problems just the same.
One day I'll get through to you on just how much better the good stuff is.
And you forget what it's like to not even be able to afford the cheap shit,
Victor said, taking another drag.
What I drink and smoke now was the stuff of kings to us back then. Hell, even a scrap of bread was a small fortune to us.
Marko shook his head.
Believe me, I have not forgotten, nor will I.
He puffed on the cigar one last time, and then snuffed out what little was left on an ashtray.
Why did you call me here? The Merc Company attack?
Victor asked. Marko nodded.
The police are doing whatever it is they do. I have some of my best looking into it, but your people can get where they can't. Can talk to people, mine can't.
And how will you make it worth the Kuznetsov's time?
Victor said with a nonchalant tone.
For one, It is what I pay you for. But do this. Find out who attacked me, and I'll get you those weapons you've been asking for,
Marko said.
Assault rifles, drones, explosives.
What about those fighting robots you've been working on?
Victor interrupted. Marko's eyes narrowed.
How do you know about that?
Victor chuckled and took a long drag on his cigarette.
We only have our ways of knowing things we shouldn't.
He leaned forward on the desk.
I won't ask about yours if you don't ask about mine.
Marko considered for a long while, tapping his fingers on the desk as he thought, then said,
Find them. Bring them to me alive, and we'll talk. It is a program still in development, so there are things to consider.
One regiment when they are ready.
Victor put out his cigarette on the steel desk, purposely next to the ashtray, and stood from his chair.
When they are ready.
Marko held out his hand and Victor shook it.
We'll start hitting the streets. The Kuznetsovs always get results.
Victor turned to leave. Marko nodded.
I'm counting on it.
The elevator door closed behind Marko, and he was gone. Yura stepped back in from the wet bar around the corner with a pair of glasses. She handed one to him and he gulped down the vodka. He groaned as the cool liquid burned down his throat.
Marko, are you sure about this?
Yura said, then knocked back her own glass.
I don't care how the dogs who did this are found. I just want to watch the life drain from their eyes myself. If I have to unleash the wolves to do it, so be it,
Marko said. He could feel his anger building again, mixed with the burn of the vodka in his stomach.
What else do I pay them for? He has as much to make up to me as the police. They both failed to prevent this.
No,
Yura started.
I mean, promising him automatic. What would the Kuznetsovs want with a regiment of robotic soldiers?
Probably finally take over this town, pushing out the other gangs. It doesn't matter. It's beneath us.
Marko felt his anger near bursting out of his chest. He started breathing heavily, and his body suddenly felt so cold. The music on the record player warped and distorted as he fell over, barely catching himself from falling on the desk. Yura said something, but he couldn't make it out. Nothing made any sense. Up, down, colors. Why was he trying to stand anyway? Then his grip on the desk slipped. He was falling. Next time on Defiant Horizon.
Come on, guys. If the boss catches you playing cards on the job, he's gonna chew us all out again.
Do you know how a man kills a hydra? A dead cop is easy enough to get rid of in this town. I am the Crimson Tengu. Enjoy the fireworks. I hope you enjoyed today's show. What did you think of the episode? Leave a comment down below to let me know what you thought, or leave a question for my new monthly Q&A episode. Before you go, please be sure to leave a like and share the show with a friend. It makes a massive difference in helping with discovery of the show, but also lets me know what you'd like to see more of. Check out the link tree below in the description to see all the different ways you can enjoy the show, or how to connect on social media and Discord. Special thanks to Fulfill Your Destiny for being a paid subscriber on Substack. Your contribution makes this show possible, and I cannot thank you enough for your support. If you would like to be featured in the show's special thanks, as well as other perks, please check out my Substack link in my link tree. Words cannot express how much I appreciate you taking some time out of your day to see what I've been working on, and I truly hope to see you again soon. Until next time, good fortune, good health, and good day.